Now, back to Lansing's only live afternoon talk show, Ebling and You, on More Compelling Talk Radio, 1320 WILS.
Welcome back. Jack Ebling, Dave Benton, Ebling and You, 1320 WILS. Dave, as I think you know, my son is in China right now. Zach was adopted in January of 1987, and one of the best days of my life. I'm very happy to bring in Nicole Witt from the Adoption Consultancy. Hello, Nicole.
Hi, Jack. How are you?
Just fine. I'm looking at some information here, and as a big proponent of adoption, I guess I'm happy, whatever the reason, but I didn't think that the economy would make more people adopt and turn away from fertility clinics.
Yes, we're starting to see a little bit of that as people are concerned about spending money on infertility treatments that, aren't always successful. They want to make sure that they're going to have some cushion available to pursue adoption. So people are starting to turn to adoption a little bit earlier in the process than they would have otherwise.
There is a significant debate on stem cell research in the state of Michigan, and it's been speculated by opponents of that women would be sitting out in front of their houses with stands selling their eggs and all kinds of bizarre scenarios. But I would say that there are some very easy options, and if anyone needs some information on the adoption option, they can check with someone like you.
Exactly. And there are some reports that more women are looking to be egg donors. Certainly the money isn't a primary motivation, but there is a financial incentive for them. So people who do want to pursue that option, they may have some more opportunities to do it than in the past. But again, more people don't want to end up in a position where they pursue that. It's a very expensive option, and if it doesn't work, then they've got no money left, or worse, they're tens of thousands of dollars in debt, and they don't have any further options in terms of building their family because they can't afford to go forward with an adoption.
I was pleasantly surprised, Nicole, in 1986 when my employer, the Lansing State Journal, went above and beyond their contract with me and said that they would pay for all adoption expenses. That doesn't happen everywhere. Can you talk about the cost in a normal adoption?
Sure. Certainly the cost varies depending on the birth mother situation and what the adoptive parents are looking for. But on average, if you're talking about a private domestic adoption, you're usually talking somewhere in the ballpark of about $30,000. Mm-hmm. Now, that's before there is an $11,000 tax credit, and that's a dollar-for-dollar credit that can put $11,000 back in your pocket. So that takes a little bit of the sting out of it for a lot of people.
Takes it down to about $19,000 then, right?
Right. And there are actually a lot of companies who, more and more are offering adoption benefits. That your company paid for the whole thing is incredible, but a lot of companies are starting to offer between $7,500 and $10,000 in benefits. So that brings it down to, about the cost of doing one cycle of in vitro fertilization.
I was going to say it's roughly the cost of 1 year's college education for the kid that you're adopting.
Right.
So what about overseas adoption then, and the price of that? How does it change?
Well, on average, domestic adoption does tend to be slightly less expensive than international, but they're really both in the same ballpark. With international, it really depends on the country. It can vary anywhere between $20,000 and $50,000, depending on the country. But things have changed so much with international adoption over the last 18 months or so that, most of the big, stable programs that people really counted on and went to have either changed significantly or have shut down.
Why is that?
Each country has had its own situation. Guatemala and Vietnam have been closing for concerns about baby trafficking, and the U.S. wanting to make sure that each adoption is, on the up and up.
And China?
China was having such long waiting lists that they instituted much more strict policies last May on who can adopt. But what's happened when they did that is so many people rushed to get in the queue before those policies went into effect that they actually ended up with a much longer backlog. In the meantime, the wait right now in China is upwards of 3 years.
our wait with my son from Korea was roughly the length of a normal term pregnancy. It was just about 9 months. Mm-hmm. And so that was just about perfect. Just almost gave me time to be an effective father. So.
Right. And with domestic adoption, most people have heard a lot of myths that it takes 2 to 3 years, and it's just not true. The average time for domestic adoption is about 12 months, and if you're really proactive about how you handle the situation, it can be much more quick than that. Most of our clients adopt on average in about 6 months, so it can actually be quicker than a typical pregnancy.
Why do people have the impression that it takes longer, it costs more, that there's some kind of a backroom deal?
Right. That's a great question, and I don't know the origin of a lot of these myths. Certainly, there are some elements of truth in certain parts of the country. For instance, in the Northeast, it does tend to take longer. There are a lot of agencies with 2 and 3 year wait times, but you don't have to just adopt where you live. People from the Northeast can adopt from Florida, from Utah, from Kansas, in places where the waits tend to be quicker. So again, there are ways to be really proactive about the process and have it work for you. I had clients in the Northeast who had been on their agency's waiting list for 2 years with nothing going on, and they called me and they had their baby in their home 3 weeks later.
Wow. And for people who have been unable to have children with natural childbirth, this is just it's such a blessing to know that this option is out there. And there are people who decide that for whatever reason they want to open their home and they want to, maybe they already have children. They may have a couple already and decide that they want to enlarge their family. Is there a problem with that now?
No, there's not. That's another myth that's out there. People hear that if you already have a child or other children that you wait a lot longer to get selected by a birth mother. Mm-hmm. But, birth mothers, I'd say it's probably about a 60-40 split. Some of them do want their baby to be the first child in the family, but a lot of them want to know that their baby is going to have older siblings. So they're going to be looking for a family that already has children.
Being selected by a birth mother, as you say, is it get competitive? Is it almost like you have to recruit, put on a different veneer so that you pass the test?
Right. Well, depending on how selective you are and what you're looking for, especially in terms of race, it can get a little bit competitive. And really one of the things, what adoptive parents do is that they create what's called a profile, which is basically like a scrapbook of their lives and what they have to offer to the child. And that's what the birth mother uses to select the family. So it's really important to put together a strong profile that stands head and shoulders above the other ones that she may be considering.
So individual birth mothers may evaluate different factors differently.
Exactly. There's always some common ground that they choose a family for. Maybe there's some sort of similar background or something that they felt was missing in their childhood that this family can offer. It can be something as simple as a big backyard. So you just need to be yourself, show what you have to offer, and the right birth mother will select you.
Nicole, if someone wants more information, if they have any questions at all on adoption, what should they do?
Well, I can certainly help them. They can reach me at adoptanewlife.com. And, I discourage people from doing a lot of internet surfing because it's just so overwhelming. And there's
Adoptanewlife.com.
Adoptanewlife.com, and I'd be happy to speak with them.
Terrific. Nicole Watt of the Adoption Consultancy, our guest. Nicole, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jack.
We will be back with more Jack and Dave, 1320 WILS.